Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative is speaking to Rekha Sharma about Yellowjackets, which is airing on Showtime. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the show. I love it so much. There's so much kind of going on with the show. First question I kind of had for you in regards to your character. Your character compared to other characters on the show, Rekha, is not as complex as other characters. But what I find interesting is your character is in a very complex situation. Like there's a lot happening in this situation. So I'm curious, like, what's that like for you? Maybe you're not that complex as like a character with your arc, but your character is kind of just thrown in the fire, so to speak. So I'm just curious for you as kind of an actor in a storyline, what's that like for you?
Right. Well, yeah, it's a very complex situation, and although we're not really being shown her various layers like many other characters, she certainly has layers to be the kind of person to do the job that she's doing. Like you gotta have like been
Yeah,
through some stuff to choose that as a
absolutely.
career path. So it is a fascinating and fun, dangerous person to play.
Mm-hmm.
And in the midst of, I think for me, like part of what I thought about a lot when I was when we were shooting was the fact that here are these women that have gone through this crazy traumatic event that
Yeah.
has made them both messed up but very strong.
Yep.
And my character comes in as somebody who, in the normal world, has to kind of be able to go toe to toe with these women.
Yep.
So I'm like, I think I've been through something pretty bad as well.
Yeah.
And I'm also my own brand of dangerous. So and that's fun to play with not only characters that are strong, but also like, come on, this cast, like, there's a lot of really powerful, strong, exciting women in this cast.
100%. Well, it's interesting too because your character obviously isn't part of like the flashback scenes, but the thing that, and I've talked to
Yeah.
Kevin Alves, who plays young Travis on the show as well, about this. One of the things that interests me as well about that whole storyline is, they're survivors of a plane crash. They're in a situation where like it's not if you want to kind of be part of this like new little village, like you have to be part of it basically. So like you have to be part of it basically, and they're so vulnerable and so sensitive because of everything they've kind of gone through. So anything is kind of going to set them off, essentially. I found that, was that kind of interesting to see in the script for you as well, even though your character is not like involved with the flashbacks, but that's an interesting dynamic that I feel like really hits hard in the show.
Absolutely. Listen, every Zoom read through we had was absolutely delightful. I read the script before every read through. Every script is amazing and fascinating and emotionally challenging on the page. And then every read through we do, all the actors are so fantastic. They just bring it to life. It was great. I could have one line and I wouldn't be bored the entire time because there's so much great stuff going on in the other storylines.
No, absolutely. There is so much going on. I'm curious too, when you kind of, when you kind of sign on to a project like this, when do you officially notice that it's packed in terms of so many genres happening and so much happening? Like Yellowjackets on Showtime, Rekha, is a genre-bending show. But I'm just curious for you, when do you start noticing that?
I mean, I think it's probably a little different for everybody.
Yep.
I'll say the first time I read the script, I was like, wow, I want to be on this show. Like, it's there on the page, how exciting it is,
Mm-hmm.
and how challenging, genre bending it is. But then, yeah, you don't really know until you start shooting, until you start seeing the choices that they're making on set, until you start, even in those Zoom read-throughs, you can tell by the choices the actors make. But
Yeah.
yeah, you start to kind of get a feel for it. But honestly, not until you see it. Not until you see it do you really know what we're putting down there. And
And the thing is, the trailers for the show, because you know how it is, right? Like an announcement, there's all these kind of like layers of like hype and like marketing of a show, right? There's like the cast announcement, then there's the release date and the trailer, right? And the trailer's great, but I don't think the trailer does it justice in terms of like how packed the show is, in terms of there's so many kind of things happening in the show. Like it's not like it has. I haven't watched a show like this that has so many elements and so many genres in a while. Like it's scary, it's heartfelt, it's funny at times. It's like
I love that so much. To me, it's like it's so good because it's life.
Yeah.
It has all of the layers that life does.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear you saying that. That's really translating.
But the thing is, it's because it's no surprise. Like, part of my job with Popternative is I research, I see what's kind of going on. Like people are loving Yellowjackets, right? Recently got renewed for season 2. There's a lot of like fan groups and Reddits and everyone's loving it and everything. Obviously, like for it to kind of hit so quick in terms of the season 1's not even fully out yet, and it has this reception. Obviously, something's done right. We talked about a lot of things. What stands out though for you? Because, like you said, it's life. But can you pick one thing that you think is the audience is really kind of taking in the most out of everything in terms of why they love the show so much?
Oh gosh, I mean,
it's hard, right?
It is hard. It's tough to say. To me, it's the fact that like life, it's really hitting those levels of truth. It's like we've all gone through some kind of trauma.
Yeah.
We've all been marked by some difficulty in life. We've all tried to like overcome it. We've all overcome it poorly. Mm-hmm. I love that there's a lot of flaws being exposed on this show, but there's also a lot of fight and a lot of heart, and I think it's as messy as life is, I think that's why people love it. It's a messy show.
But you could relate it to your storyline as well. There's a lot of it's funny because it goes back and forth, and it's the past and the present. The present hasn't changed as much in terms of characters still kind of making like rash, maybe not so good decisions on certain things, if you know what I'm going with. And that's something I'm noticing too. Like, has as much changed between some of the characters you see the past and present? Maybe, but maybe not, right?
Yeah. And that's where, we're all like, some of it's like you question, you're like, oh, is that just the person's personality, or are they traumatized and kind of stuck? Mm-hmm. And I think we're seeing flavors of both of those things in the show, where we're like, okay, some of the things, for instance, that Shauna is doing in her life currently really feel to me like part of being stuck at a certain age. Yeah. When you go through a traumatic event, part of you is kind of stuck there and never really fully matures out of that.
Yeah. To add to that too, with the episodes, I just feel like, because you know how people have like theories and predictions and everything, and there's a lot of them, you know what I mean? But like, it's so hard, Rekha, because I'm watching one episode and it just feels like I was thrown a curveball down the middle, because you go in with all these things and theories, and it's like one episode later and it's like, this doesn't apply as much anymore. Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? You've obviously, you've worked on other shows as well that don't have as many curveballs as this show. So you're able to kind of make predictions, but like, it's hard to have fan theories that kind of stay consistent for the show.
I love that. I love hearing that that's how you feel, and I do feel again like that's like life. Like, they say life is stranger than fiction. It's true. It's like you think you can predict what's ahead,
Mhm.
and one day goes by and everything changes. You're
It's
like, no.
crazy. No, it's crazy. And don't get me wrong, you've seen it firsthand. Like you've worked on some big brands, like big brand shows in the past too, right? Like I believe you worked on Star Trek for a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you kind of know what to expect, but I'm just curious what your mindset is like when you worked on like the Star Trek brand versus kind of the Yellowjackets brand, which is obviously not like established. Like it's two different things because you're going on something that everyone knows. Like people know what Star Trek is, and then
Yeah.
people don't know what Yellowjackets is until like 6 episodes later, and it's like snap the finger, people know what it is as an actor, as a storyteller, what's that mindset like going from like a known project to like an unknown project that becomes known right away?
I mean, it's very different.
Yeah.
Like working on Star Trek, being like, okay, there's a huge, uh, sort of years and years, like 50 years of stories that I'm trying to kind of honor in my approach and kind of look at. You want to be true to the writing, you want to be true to the heart of something that's so established.
Yeah.
You have a clear sense of what it is, and you don't, of course, a huge fan base. You don't want to disappoint, make choices that are going to upset them. And I myself was a Star Trek fan as a kid too, so I was like, I want to be. I want to honor what it is, but this is just like blank canvas. So
Yeah.
exciting. Like none of there. And then you just go more to like, okay, I just want to be true to life, right?
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
how real can we make this? How much research do we have to do about surviving in the wilderness or whatever to
Yeah.
understand what's there.
I talked to you about this before we started. I mean, we're not obviously going to go into spoilers, but people that have watched episode 6 and 7 of Yellowjackets see that your character has some scenes with Christina Ricci, and I'm just curious, what was that like working with Christina Ricci on those scenes that kind of get pretty like intense and like kind of go from 0 to 100 in certain times in terms of like what you guys are talking about, and then it just seems like a balloon that just pops at times. So what was that like working with her on those scenes?
She's great. Love working with Christina. She's very easy to work with. And it's kind of fun. It's just like both of us, it felt like we're just there for the ride, right?
Yeah.
Like no pressure, you know, but we know what we got to do and where we got to go, and, and just try to have fun doing it, right?
Is it a hard thing to work on projects where you know like what's happening even before you like shoot it? That's something that I've never asked someone this question before, by the way. So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's an obvious thing that comes up sometimes, but not
Yeah.
directly. Like I just thought of that right now. Like you know what's happening because you read the script for it. So what's that like?
Yeah, it's like kind of like a standard acting technique,
Yeah.
especially since not only do we know what comes ahead, but we've already said the words 10 times by the time you probably see what ends up on camera. We do it
Mhm.
from all these different angles. So every time you start the scene, you have to pretend like you don't know how it ends.
It's so
you know?
interesting. Is there also like a little bit of like a misconception about like the whether there's like a standard kind of time or like formula of like how a show or how a scene is put together? Like I feel like there's some shows where like a couple of
Mhm.
scenes might take like 2-3 days to shoot because it's so big scale. Like I don't know like how long some of those scenes in the woods took, but like there's some insane things that kind of happen. So like I'm wondering, there's those like, do you feel like was there a lot of like, from what you know, longer like shoots than usual on the show, or was it kind of standard?
I think it was fairly standard. I
Yeah.
mean, as you know, I've worked on some big shows, in Star Trek, certainly in the early days. Those were some of the longest days I've ever worked on a television series. Movie timing takes much longer as well, but TV tends to move at a clip. And honestly, very impressive at how much we got done. There were some very challenging scenes to shoot,
100%.
and uh, and we had a great team in Vancouver, some excellent crews, and everybody, I mean, the team of people that we got to work with on this show, from the show creators, the producers, and all the actors and all the crew, like people who are really willing to work hard and give it their best, and that makes all the difference on how fast a day goes, for sure.
100%. Rekha, thank you so much for coming on Popternative and chatting a little bit about Yellowjackets. I really appreciate it. Yellowjackets on Showtime. First 7 episodes are out, and we have 3 more, so it's 10 total. So people just got to tune in for the ride. And where can people follow you on social media to keep update with everything?
I'm at the Rekha Sharma on both Twitter and Instagram.
Amazing. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Rekha Sharma from Yellowjackets on Showtime and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.